Hi, welcome to Crime in the Mitten. We are your hosts. I'm Shelby.
And I'm Alia.
Every week, you'll hear a new true crime story based in Michigan, from the mysterious missing cases to the gruesome murders that left the police struggling to stay on the scene. We're giving you the inside scoop on what's going on in our Mitten state. Tune in every Wednesday for your weekly dose of Michigan true crime.
Hey there, true crime lovers. It's Alia, and I'm back with yet another Michigan true crime case. One that you won't believe happened, but it did. But before we start the case, it's still February, so we have two more self-care tips for you this week. Shelby said last year that we always need a break. So especially when we're like constantly reading like true crime, we're not only researching for ourselves, but listening to so many other documentaries and like all the other true crime podcasts we listen to. My self-care tip is take a break. I have a whole like weekly listening to the podcast, a whole weekly routine of listening to podcasts that have nothing to do with true crime.
Which is a good thing, no? Because I think I torture myself too much where, not torture, but I would listen to, like, do research and then turn around and listen to a bunch of true crime podcasts or watch nothing but true crime documentaries and stuff. And I'm wondering why it's a dark cloud, like, over my head for the most part, but I'm pretty sure that's why.
You just need a break.
Yeah, so that's actually a really good one.
So the one, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, like, wait, what's a good podcast, like, that you listen to that's not true crime
so my weekly,
related?
I start Monday, and then the last one I listen to Saturday on the way here or like getting ready to come here. So Monday I listen to Horrible Decisions.
It's a really funny one.
It's hilarious. Shelby, you really missed the live show. Like, it was really nice.
I know,
Weezy
and I wanted to go.
Hilarious.
I know, and I really wanted to see Weezy in person, like so bad.
She's so pretty.
Yeah, I bet. I really wanted to see her.
Tuesday, I listened to Getting Grown with Jade and Kia. Wednesday, I listened to The Friend Zone. Thursday, I used to listen to The Read, but since they started a TV show coming out on Friday, they switched their day from Thursday to Tuesday. But I still try to listen to on Thursday just so there's not like
still live in the moment. I get it.
Just so there's not a gap there.
And it's a routine now, so you can wait till Thursday.
Yeah, just because it's routine. That's what I'm so used to. And then on Friday, so I'm subscribed to the Jaden XD Patreon. So, yeah, because they talk about love after lockup on a Patreon.
I know, you were saying
and I have
that.
to, like, their recaps of the show are hilarious. So I listened to their Patreon episode on Friday. I listened to that, like, when it comes out Friday morning. And then on Saturday, I listened to their actual episode.
So it's like double trouble for you. Double feature.
Yeah. What's yours?
So my self-care tip of the week is meditation, which is so crazy because I'm always hyped up all the time. People don't think like I actually sit down for like 25 minutes at least and meditate, but it helps so much. Like I get so many people that tell me though, they're like, oh, I tried and it didn't work. And I'm like, seriously, when you start with meditation, you should at least still try for like at least 15 minutes because in that 15 minutes.
No, I told you I failed.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
3.
But it takes discipline though. Like, trust me, I was like opening my eyes, checking the timer and stuff. But then eventually like it started to grow where like I would have a moment where you like what they call quote unquote tap in and like you can feel like your thoughts coming together and stuff like that. And eventually if you keep doing this 15 minutes, it grows from like, okay, 1 minute in. I felt like, I started feeling the effects of it. Then next time it took like, I started with 15 and I was like, wow, I'm instantly, as soon as I started meditating, I'm connected. My thoughts are like coming together and stuff. I need to do this longer and you increase the time. So it's just something like you have to like kind of train your mind more so to do than like actually like, you can't just get up and just do it. So, but it helps so much. Like when I'm in a situation, even at work, I'll have a moment where I just stop and I'm like, okay, deep breaths and stuff like that. And like I can easily like come back in, like jump right back into like work mode and like deal with like kids throwing toys at me or something, So meditation is lit.
When I started the yoga in the beginning of the year, at the end you have to just lay down and be silent. my timer was set for 3 minutes. It was like the app that I used, the timer was automatically set for 3 minutes. And every 5 seconds I was peeking over like, okay, is this 3 minutes over yet?
No, and I used to do that. And then I like noticed like, oh wow, it'll be 10 minutes going by and then I'm checking
my phone.
my phone.
And then you be stuck. Like you can't move at that point because it's like, oh, I really feel relaxed after you don't want to get up.
It. Yeah, so try some meditation. There's also like a bunch of videos on YouTube where you can like, because I'm like such a person that does research so much before I do anything. I like watched 1,000 videos on like meditation and all this stuff before I could even like actually do it. So then when I did it, I felt like, not like an expert, but I was like, I already know what to expect. I know I'm going to open my eyes up. Like, so like, it's just like you feel through that stuff. But definitely meditation is like a great go-to. And if you want to like amp it up a little bit, get some healing crystals and light some candles, set the mood, play some 432 HZ music. It's a lot, but it's definitely worth it though. Like I stand by it 100%. So that's my self-care. I'm sorry, I'm eating a gummy bear that Alia made as I'm doing this. But yeah, that's my self-care tip for this week. I hope you guys try taking off days though, but like, don't just call off and stuff like that and then blame it on me because I don't need that negativity in my life. But I hope you guys try those PTO days because I got one coming up on Monday.
I did get a question about what detox bath I use. I literally just Googled like detox bath ingredients. So it's like apple cider vinegar, Epsom salt, baking soda, and like essential oils or something like that. It's a few things that you just add.
What are you trying to do? Cook yourself?
That's what it felt like. It's how does the water be?
It feels like you're trying to bake yourself in there, broil or something. No, boil. You're trying to boil yourself. But yeah, I'm actually really liking these self-care tips in the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to get into today's episode.
Which I'm really excited for. Like, she asked me, Alia texted me and was like, hey, I need a case name. And I'm like, gosh, I can't even help you because it's so good.
Yeah, I had no idea what to name this. Like, I was finished with my transcript and everything, but I didn't have a name until...
Which people don't know. The naming and the description are the hardest things to ever do.
Oh, yeah. So... I just ended up calling it Burn Bodies and Manistique.
Ooh. Which I'm like, even then, I'm like tuned in. I like that name.
Didn't even know where Manistique was until I read this.
Learn something new every day.
I didn't know what it was. But Manistique, Michigan is a small town in the Upper Peninsula. It's a little over 3 miles big in Schoolcraft County. Kenneth Brunke was a divorced loner and had history of depression and suicidal thoughts. The 46-year-old lived alone in a large tri-level home on the rural road, Kendall Road in Manistique after moving from Illinois in 2011. He worked for Schoolcraft Road Commission. His job was basically just to go around and inspect the roads.
That sounds like the easiest job ever.
You just ride around and inspect.
Yeah, you know what? I need a job like that. I heard that there's a job where you could just test drive cars. I need, like, where do people find out about these? What?
He said it sucked. Okay. You got to go to, like, Kentucky and back overnight.
But still, like, how do people find out about these cool jobs? Yeah. Like, you just inspect roads all day. That sounds... And
then you still, no matter what the car is, you still got to drive it in the winter to make sure it's good for winter time.
Oh, boy.
Still,
it sounds intense.
He absolutely hated it. Minivans. 15 passenger vans, all that. You have to test all of them. And then if it's a newer car, you got to cover it up. If you stop for gas, if you stop for lunch, anything, you got to cover the car completely up because it's like it's still car from 2 years.
Yeah. Sounds intense. But lit.
So apparently that job didn't make enough because most of his money came from selling cocaine and morphine. He was the town distributor. He didn't actually sell to the users. He sold to the sellers.
That's where you really get the money.
He's like the big man.
Right, the supplier. That's who they ask for when they're like, we want the supplier. That's who. He was the big dog.
Right.
It's so funny because my boyfriend is watching Breaking Bad right now. So, like, as you're saying this, I'm just thinking of, like, those characters and, like, painting them with him.
His nickname was Spark, which is pretty fitting once I get into the case. He was originally from Illinois, but moved to Manistique after getting the job. Gary Cordell, his friend, neighbor, and employee who sold for him, he had recently got out of prison and in 2011 after serving a 10-year sentence for burglary, and met Spark soon after in 2014. Cordell lived with his 28-year-old girlfriend, Moretta Carlson. She began doing heroin in high school.
Oh, that's that's pretty soon.
Yeah.
You didn't start off with weed? You just
That's
go
what
straight
you would
to
think.
the big guns.
The big stuff. Maybe she did. That's just when she started doing heroin in high school.
Okay.
In February of 2015, Brunke heard about a pretty young lady, Heather Adrich, in town who was heavy on drugs and was a customer of Cordell. Heather was 25 with 5 children who she didn't have custody of and a GED. Drugs completely messed up her life. Heather was arrested in a drug and prostitution sting. Cordell introduced Brunke and Aldrich because he wanted to be with her, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And he let her stay with him because she was living in her car, selling herself for money to afford her hotel room. And he also gave her free drugs while she was staying there. So, of course, that's what she wanted to be.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's like paradise.
Right.
Yeah.
For the drugs. He really wanted to be with her, but she wasn't really feeling the relationship thing. Cordell warned Brunke not to let Aldrich stay in his house, and she was just using him. She didn't really want to stay there, but so she was in and out.
Mm-hmm.
When she'd leave for days, he would get upset. She stayed with her mother, Kelly Rowe, from time to time.
I really thought you was about to say Kelly Rowland.
I know. Yeah, that's what I think about.
I'm sorry, but I was like, don't add the end at the end. I'm like, what?
Oh, but her mom stayed in Germfast Township. Her mother said she would stay with her for a while, like for a break and a quick cleanup, and then couple home cooked meals, and then disappear. She knew her daughter was a drug addict, and that was just her thing, to come in for a few days, cook, get some rest, and then leave.
Mm-hmm.
Or for her mom to cook.
Right.
But Aldrich posted a lot on Facebook about wanting to get her life together and change for the better, and she wanted to see her kids again.
Right. Oh, so she had kids too.
Yeah, 5.
Oh. Wow.
Cordell really wanted Brunke to keep Aldrich out of his home, but he really liked her and wanted to be with her. In March of 2015, she posted that she was in a relationship with another guy. Mm. Cordell showed Brunke the post, and of course he wasn't happy at all.
Of course not.
In April, Heather said she walked into Brunke's house, and he had a gun to his head, then pointed it at her, and she took off. Even after that, she wanted the free drugs, so she continued to go back. On April 14th, he gave her a lot of cocaine. Like, just the whole...
This is like,
a lot of cocaine.
This is really paradise for her.
Yeah.
This is, like, she is living the life.
On a super secluded rocky road, Brunke saw them while he was out driving in his work truck. He was inspecting the roads, and so that explains why he was, like, over in this secluded, super rocky, no one should be over here road.
Right.
But he saw Aldrich and the guy that she was with doing all of his drugs. The guy in the car with her said that he was, like, pretty sure Brunke saw them and what they were doing, but he just kind of gave them a look and kept going. And so,
like
of course, he wasn't happy about it. Right.
Stare.
He was not happy about it because
not.
who he thought was his girlfriend is now sitting in the car with another guy doing the drugs that he gave to her.
Gave her. Like, I didn't want you to do this with someone else.
Right.
Like, honestly, though, like, you shouldn't be giving her these drugs anyway. But that's neither here nor there.
To keep her around.
Right. You should have already knew that she wasn't yours to keep if that was the only way you could keep her.
That's the only way you can keep her. Aldrich went back to Brunke's house the next day on the 15th while he was at work. She went into his stash and took the large stash of cocaine that he had buried in a pipe in the backyard.
Oh, she was searching.
It wasn't really buried. And then she's there so often, I'm pretty sure she just knew exactly where it was.
Okay,
like, it wasn't really buried or it wasn't hidden too well. Like, somebody not just gonna go in and find it. But if you know where it is, then you know where it is. Because he didn't really have it hidden up too well. It was nothing but like pine cones covering up covering it up.
So it was like you have to know to even be able to get it type stuff. Wow, she's still cutthroat. Like, went to the stash. That's an extreme.
Not only did she take his stash, she took
wait, stop laughing.
$2,000 in quarters.
In quarters. Wait, how heavy? She didn't do that alone. 2,000 in quarters is heavy. That sounds like it's really heavy. Like $20 in quarters. I'm like, my pockets are feeling heavy. Wait, let alone 2,000. And why does he just have $2,000 in coins?
That was just his. He
was just a quarter guy.
Like, apparently, he just had them saved up in bottles.
Goals right there. Have $2,000 worth of coins just sitting here.
But she drove back to her spot on River Road with 2 friends and used up the drugs. A few hours later, Brunke texted her saying, quote, "There's free morphine on my computer desk. Come by and get it." Wow. A friend of hers said that he was like trying to bait her in, basically, and she was paranoid, like, I took it, I can't go back. So she panicked about stealing the drugs while coming down from her high, and was like, and she hid her car, like by a casino, because she didn't want there to be any chances of him finding her. Right, just like driving by one day and he's seen, because he is a road inspector, driving by and seeing her car just there. You know what? She was a smart. No, she was trying to play it smart. Wait. Okay. I feel like every time I give somebody credit, you shut it down for me. Like, I always pick the wrong person to credit. She just knew that he was looking for her, so she called her sister, Carrie Nelson, who was 31, and her boyfriend, Jody Hutchinson, who was 42. They all eventually met up in Germfast at her mother's home. She told her her mother said that she told me she had taken the drugs, and I said, give them back.
You know what? I would say the same thing, like, and so we can't give it back. Why? Just drop them. Well, it's probably gone at this point. A lot of it is gone.
By then, it was gone.
Yeah, so her mom, she's like, but that's not the best. Trust me, I can't.
She was even like, but her mom said she was scared. Like, she didn't even want to go back over there. But on April 16th, when she woke up that morning and had an urge for the morphine, she went to his home. So she had her sister and her boyfriend to drop her off over there. And before she got there, she posted a song on her Facebook page about struggling and addiction and all of that.
Right.
The lyrics were, "The needle in my arm, the thoughts in my head. What's the matter anyway? By morning I'll be dead."
That is really deep.
Who knew those song lyrics would become real to her life?
Wow.
On April 17th, the very next afternoon, a couple and their sons were driving down River Road near where Adrich and her friends had been, and saw an SUV and stopped in the middle of the road. As they got closer, they could tell that it had been burned. The family got out for an even closer look. They looked into the windows and saw what looked to be 2 smoldering bodies in the back seat. They ran back, and the terrified father called 911. Police arrived and were able to determine that 3 bodies in the Oldsmobile Bravado, and there were 3 bodies, 2 in the back seat and 1 in the cargo area. The fire was so bad that it completely melted the tires off the car.
Oh, wow.
The bodies were still warm and smoking.
So, like, this recently happened.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
The victims were identified as Heather Adrich, her sister Carrie Nelson, and her boyfriend Jody. Because the bodies were so badly burned, the medical examiner couldn't determine the actual cause of death. Just knew that they were burned.
Right.
Within days of the body had been discovered, a witness told police that he had seen Gary Cordell, Brunke's, the drug salesman and neighbor, when he threw items belonging to the victims in the Manistique River.
Wow.
Cordell and his girlfriend, Marietta Carlson, were arrested a few days later and both gave very detailed confessions.
Oh, so they didn't like try to like cover up. They just went like they
just told.
Which, you know what, I commend them for that. Like, thank you for just what's the name and just coming like right out of it, because like I feel like the last couple of cases that's been like our argument. Like, can you just like you did it? Just admit that you did it now.
The two admitted to the killings and implicated Brunke, saying that he helped strangle and smother the victims in his own home. They wanted to punish Adrich for stealing the cocaine, and her sister and her sister's boyfriend were simply just killed because they're the ones who dropped her off, and they were basically witnesses.
And then, so he's closing in, like tying up all loose ends.
They tried, I guess.
Well, yeah. Not if you're just going to go in and confess.
Confess anyway.
But hey.
Carlson first said that Brunke strangled Adrich in his bedroom while she held down her legs to keep her from kicking and flailing. She later changed her story to saying that Cordell strangled Adrich because Brunke told him to, and he couldn't do it himself because he liked her that much, that he absolutely wanted her dead. She said that Brunke was killing the other two who he had tied up in the basement. Cordell told police that Brunke admitted to killing Nelson in the basement, strangling her as she was tied to a pole. He said that he was upstairs the whole time that Brunke provided specific details on his own murderous activities in the basement. Brunke told Cordell that it took less than 2 minutes to kill Mary Nelson. A few days later, Brunke was arrested in Illinois, where he had fled after the killings. Well, why you go back to your home state?
Yeah.
Like your hometown of all places to run from, where they have records of you living once.
And that's like the first place we're going to check. So that was really smart on your end.
While he was in Illinois, investigators said that Brunke replaced all 4 tires of his car, worried that they might match the tires to what was found, the tracks that were found where the bodies were. In the beginning, the 3 defendants didn't have the same story on what happened that night. They all agreed that Brunke lured Adrich to the house by telling her he would give her free drugs. While in custody, Brunke was interviewed only once by police before he hired an attorney.
Lawyered up.
He admitted that he was angry at Heather for seeing another man. He said, "I was upset. I didn't sleep that night. Someone that I cared about, basically stabbing me."
Yeah. But, I mean, people go through breakups and stuff, or, like, you have situations where the person, like, things like this happen all the time. You don't have to kill the person. You don't have to kill him. You could leave. I'm pretty sure if that person did something to you, that's probably not the person you're meant to be with.
I mean, of course, that was not the only reason he killed her. He was mad about his drugs.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure, though. And then it's like he knew that the only reason that they were, like, together is because of the drugs. So it's like you had to know, like, you only had, like, it wasn't real what you had. So it's like,
exactly,
get over it. Like, and not get over it, but like, you can move on from it. But now you look how much of a hole you dug yourself into.
Exactly. All 3 suspects were charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy of murder, and kidnapping, since the victims have been held against their will in his home.
Right.
He denied that anyone was harmed in his house and insisted that he had nothing to do with the killings. He said, "All I know was that when the people left my house, they were all vertical. They were fine."
Wow. Okay, sure they were.
Grieving family members braced for trial. Carrie Nelson had 2 young sons. Heather, in addition to her 5 children, had a mother, stepfather, and brother. Jody Hutchison had 5 children, 2 grandchildren.
Wow.
and a mother and 4 siblings. They were all confident that the numerous statements made by the defendants would
It's that like that they were taken away from their families like that.
they were like sure that they would get convicted,
Mm-hmm.
but they were very deeply disappointed. Marietta Carlson had been in Schoolcraft County Jail for 47 days while awaiting trial on the 3 counts in the murders. She woke up on June 16th complaining of stomach pain. After a jail nurse examined her, she was taken to Schoolcraft Memorial Hospital. Doctors thought that she had gallbladder problems, but as her condition got worse, they prepared to send her by helicopter to a hospital in Marquette.
Mm-hmm.
She never got on the helicopter and passed away the next day.
Mm-hmm.
During the autopsy, it was discovered that she had an inflamed heart, which that usually comes from like old age and stuff.
Yeah.
But she wasn't even old. It was just the fact that
say.
she was doing drugs for 10 years of her life.
Yeah, and that does have wear and tear on your body.
Exactly. Her statements to police about what happened in Brunke's house the night of April 16th had been critical in the prosecutor's case, but they couldn't use it because they weren't under oath and they could not be cross-examined.
Mm.
That left the prosecutor with just 2 defendants, but still enough evidence to proceed a trial. The 2 were held in 2 different jails, Cordell in Schoolcraft County and Brunke in Chippewa County Jail. Both men began to explore insanity defenses, and after their attorneys filed motions, they were ordered for a psychological exam at the state's forensic center.
Mm-hmm.
Both men ended up there on September 11th, but based off records, they don't know if they actually crossed paths or like met up there.
Mm-hmm.
While they were there together. Oh, excuse me.
Which I feel like if they wanted to try hard enough, they probably could.
They could have.
They could have definitely pulled something off.
Right.
That's like, no one can keep me from talking to you, Alia. Like, I would send a pigeon with a message to come talk to you.
No, okay, so you watched Love After Lockup, but that made me think where Brittany was trying to get, they wanted her friend to be, Zoila's godmom, but she was locked up, so they had to like hold up a sign outside of the prison to ask her to be Zoila's godmom.
I'm like, you can get a message across.
You can get that message.
Don't worry.
They were holding up signs and bells and everything.
See us? So trust me, if they really wanted to,
in a cute way instead of asking over the phone, which is funny.
But that's really thoughtful to get the experience.
But 3 weeks later, Cordell suddenly changed his story. During the 5th confession to police, he now said that Brunke was not at the house during the time of the killings and that him and Carlson had committed the murders on their own. He said that the 2 women arrived at the house looking for the morphine, so he forced the 2 women into the basement at gunpoint as Hutchinson waited outside in the car. He tied up the women, then invited Hutchinson inside. In the basement, Hutchinson pulled out a small knife from Cordell, so he took the knife from him and tied him up. Jody was the first person to die, Cordell said in his written statement dated September 29th. I placed a bag over his head and duct tape around his neck, at which time he told me he couldn't breathe, and I said, "No kidding, dummy."
I mean, it's not funny,
but he had no remorse.
It's cold. It's like, cold-hearted. It's
you're telling you can't breathe, and you're like, "Oh well."
Yeah,
that's the point. Like, what are you telling me that for?
He's like, "Thank you."
Right, I'm doing a great job then.
Right, he's like, "Thanks for the review." Wow.
He said he strangled Nelson next, and Carlson choked Adrich to death. Brunke arrived home from work shortly later. Cordell said, once talking to me and finding out that I had killed the 3 of them and that he needed to get rid of the body, he was really mad at me.
He's like, I just got home.
Right. He said that he was upset with Heather stealing the cocaine from his friend. He assumed that all 3 victims were working with undercover drug enforcement officers, a claim that law enforcement said wasn't even true.
Yeah. And then it just sounds like nothing but paranoia going on everybody's end at this point. Everyone's paranoid, and there's 1,000 excuses on why they did what they did, when in reality, all of it's unnecessary.
You just killed him.
Yeah, that it's none of it's. It don't mean nothing. It's all unnecessary.
Cordell continued to tell that all three of them loaded up the bodies into John Hutchison's SUV. Then Brunke drove his car into the forest, which Carlson and Cordell were following in Brunke's car. Once far enough off the main roads, they stopped and doused the SUV with gasoline. He claimed that Brunke threw a flare into the car, and, quote, it exploded into flames. Timothy Noble was 39 and straight out of law school. Months after graduation, he was appointed as the Schoolcraft County prosecutor and was later elected unopposed to a 4-year term. Because it was such a small town, he was basically the only lawyer. So it was no real run to see who was going to be the town prosecutor. It was just like, oh, you're the only one here, so go for it.
You know, that's like winning by default. That's what they call that.
Like, hey,
that's the definition of everyone gets a participation trophy. Like, homeboy just reaped some good benefits, and you didn't really have to run. Those are the best ways to run. I used to do that on purpose in school, and run for the stuff that not everybody else was running for, really. And I'm like, dude, this is like an easy win. Like,
yeah, if I don't win, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, so you just gonna give this position to nobody? Cool.
Noble had never tried a murder before this one. Rather than calling for help, he opted to do it on his own, even though he had no idea what he was doing. He called the victims' families together early October to tell them that he didn't think he could make the murder charge stick against Brunke without Moretta Carlson's statements, especially with Cordell's new confessions. Right. He told them that the murder charges against Brunke were being dropped and that he was going to be allowed to plead obstruction and justice and lying to police officers. These are minor convictions that would have him in prison for no longer than 5 years.
And so, we know you need to be in there for a lot longer.
For life.
Yeah. 5 years ain't going to make the cut for me.
Exactly. In exchange, he was going to testify against Cordell. We were all crying. There was all this evidence. It just didn't make sense, Kelly Rose said during the interview. A lot of the people, including the victim's family, believed that Cordell took the fall for Brunke either in exchange for money or Brunke promised to take care of Cordell's elderly mother once he was released from prison in a few years. So instead of staying home and telling the truth and then going home to your own mother, you taking
care of yourself.
No, you can go ahead and do it. I'll take the fall for you. Go ahead.
Yeah,
that makes. You want to take care of my mom?
That makes no sense at all, though, because it's like, unless homeboy really just didn't feel like taking care of his mom, and was like, oh, he offered the service. No, and then you can't trust people like that, though, because a lot of people be like, when you get locked up, they're like, oh, I'll take care.
I got your family for you.
And then they be like, you get out, and they be like, yeah, this such come through, and it's like, who is that? They don't even know who it is. Like, you can't go off of that.
On October 19th, soon before Brunke was brought into court to testify against Cordell at Cordell's preliminary exam, the prosecutor heard a source that Brunke owed Cordell $6,500. When Brunke took to the stand, Noble asked him about it. Brunke seemed caught off guard by the question, then admitted that he owed Cordell the money, but never really gave a straight answer on why. He just said that Cordell had done some landscaping for him and the other few small things around the house in order for that. So you owe him that much money for
cutting grass and trimming flowers? Cool.
He fixed the sink. Like, what?
Okay.
But everybody noticed that didn't really make sense, seeing that they visited Brunke's home and there was zero like signs of landscape at all on his property.
You're like, dude, you don't even water your grass. Like, where is this coming from? I know, like, the landlord over that house was that when he heard this case, he was like, so he just gonna I'll pay for that. I send the crew out.
It didn't even make sense seeing how, like, or it didn't make sense seeing how, why do you owe your employee and you have,
yeah,
like, you owe your employee, you can't just say, oh, he's my employee, I owe him for that. And instead you said for like housekeeping and stuff.
Yeah, so it doesn't. But it's good that they asked him that and caught him off guard, because like everyone, just like we're sitting here saying like this stuff doesn't make any sense. I'm pretty sure they're in there like this makes no sense at all.
If anything, Cordell owes Brunke for like borrowing money, seeing that Brunke's the rich friend,
right? But okay, they didn't play that one right.
Like Brunke's the one with a house and a whole business, basically.
Yeah.
But he owed someone, quote unquote.
Okay.
It was never really the other way around, they claim. So it, like I said, it made no sense. Everyone knew that it didn't sound right, but if that's what Cordell wanted him to say, then that was just it. Brunke's story was simply that he came home to the dead bodies and Cordell had a gun telling him that he needed to help get rid of the people quickly, and was basically threatening him with the gun, telling him they needed to get rid of the bodies. So he's pretty much
saying, like, I had no choice but to help. You had a choice afterwards to go to the police.
Right.
We forget that. Well, okay.
The debt had been paid by the time Cordell went back to court 3 weeks later to officially plead guilty to the 3 murders. When the prosecutor in the court asked, did Brunke still owe him money, he said, quote, not anymore. The prosecutor said, what did Mr. Brunke owe you money for? Cordell responded, I don't think that's any of your business. One man shall die, so the other one may live.
What? That's what he said? That's a part of the quote? What kind of...
Literally what he told him.
What? That's not just something you just say in court, especially when you're on trial for murder.
For murder.
You really shouldn't say anything with death in it. You shouldn't even say death, anything, DEA. You need to cut it out. You need to play it safe. Wow.
Right. On Friday, February 18, 2016, Kenneth Brunke was sentenced to 40 to 60 months in prison. But he had already served 299 days. So he was only be about serving 3 years total.
Right. Oh, so so the time count when time served already went to the sentencing.
Or November 14th, 2016, there was the sentencing date for 47-year-old Gary Cordell. He was given 3 sentences in prison for life without possibility of parole. He had pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder and 1 count of felony murder for the death of Jody Hutchinson and Carrie Nelson, and for Jody Hutchinson, Carrie Nelson, and Heather Adrich in April. Judge William Carmody said that while he doesn't normally support the death sentence, if that was the case in another state, he may have just killed him. Yeah. In May 2017, since Kenneth Brunke could not be held on the murder charges, they wanted to go back to try. They wanted to get him for drug charges of delivery of cocaine and conspiracy. The 47-year-old man was sentenced to 18 to 30 years by Judge William Carmody.
Wow. I mean,
so they got him. They couldn't get him on murder, but they were going to get him.
They were going to get him for something, like, and as they should. Like, gosh, it's so irritating, and frustrating for like the families. We're just like, we got to get him for. At least they can get at least he didn't walk off like scotch free. Like he wasn't. Right. He didn't just get off. So wow, yeah. That one, I actually really been waiting to hear that case. I have, because when you told me about it, I was like, what? That sounds lit. I mean, And then you read the description to me, and I was like, oh, yeah, I can't wait for Saturday. But yeah, I'm glad that they were able to get something instead of just
murder. But
for a second, I really thought this case was going where you were saying they were just going to get off without anything.
Yeah. As I said, at least they got him for something. It definitely wasn't murder, but
yeah, it's something. Are we doing a question this week?
You're right.
Or maybe not. I'm okay if we don't. These questions, sometimes make me.
I won't do a hard one.
You don't? You won't?
Not a hard one. I guess because I was so stressed over this. Question 283. Do you prefer your hair longer or shorter?
Long. Very long. Like all the way down to my butt type long. Like I'm really a drastic. Like I love getting extensions all the way down so as long as I can. Haven't been able to go crazy lately because I work with kids and they I could have swore one time I got these ponytails and they were like really long. I seen the kid swing from one to the other. I seen it. Like everybody was like, "You're dramatic," and I was like, "No, he legit swung from one thing to the other," and no one's believing me. So but definitely long hair.
Yeah,
short hair's not really for me.
In the process of trying to grow my hair long. I didn't know it was as long as it was till I blow dried it last night.
Yeah,
which is
it's
kind of
grown
depressing
so
because
much.
It's not the hairstyle that I wanted
From high school. Like you had a lot of hair in high school, but like this is getting out of hand. That was actually a good question. I like that one.
Yeah, simple.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys. Well, you'll hear us next week.
Thank you for listening to Crime in the Mitten. You can find the transcripts, pictures we've discussed, as well as the links to our references at our website. There, you can also find the links to all of our social media. If you have a case you'd like us to talk about, you can leave a comment down below or go to the Contact Us page of the website and leave a suggestion. Each month, we will choose one for an episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps a lot.